Hey, this is Kelsey Obsession from kelseyeducation.com. I got a question on Twitter from a man who wanted to know, why won't my wife give me a blowjob? So there's a million and one reasons why my wife might not give you a blowjob. So I did inquire a little bit further, and he said that she had done it a couple of times, but that previously, in a previous relationship, she had had a boyfriend who kind of forced her or coerced her, basically kind of made her do it when she didn't really want to. So, here's the thing. Why won't my wife want to give me a blowjob? I'm going to address that part first, independently of the assault issue, and then kind of talk about the other half of this. So, if you're in a relationship and there's something that you want to happen sexually and it's not happening, there's a lot of different reasons why that could happen. Usually it's either because it's something that's out of the person's comfort zone, if you've talked about it. If you have talked about it, it could be also that you're kind of presenting it in a way that's not really that sexy or that appealing to them. Like if you're like, why won't you give me a blowjob? Yeah, that doesn't make anyone want to give you a blowjob. It could be that there's other issues in the relationship that maybe she would give you a blowjob or whatever it is that you want, but there's other things going on. There's concerns with money, there's kids, there's stress at work. There's a lot of reasons why people don't have the sex that they want that's completely outside of your sex life. So without knowing more about this couple and their situation, there could be these things going on as well. Lastly, when it comes to sex with women in particular, most women need to feel, so it kind of works backwards. And this is a generalization, but generally women need to feel love before they want to have sex. And I mean love in a very broad term. They need to feel an emotional sort of connection before they really want to be having sex. And I mean, that could occur in a one-night stand, right? But when you're in a long-term, it could occur in any sort of situation, really. You don't need to be like in love and married. But when you are married, what happens is, you have all this other stuff that goes around in your life, and it can prevent the woman from feeling that love and that emotional connection that's going to make her want to do these things with you, especially something like a blowjob, which she may or may not be getting anything directly out of it herself. Some women really, really enjoy giving them. Some women just, they don't mind doing it for their partner, but it's not like their thing. So really, the best way to deal with this is to communicate with your partner and kind of figure out what's going on. Be direct, but be aware that there are other things that might need to happen before they feel comfortable doing that. It might be that there's some kind of issue that you need to talk about that hasn't been talked about. It might be that, you're not showing her love in the way that makes her feel loved, so she doesn't feel loved and she doesn't want to do it. There's a lot of different reasons that could go on there. But a particular issue in this case is obviously the sexual assault issue. So when someone has been traumatized in some way, and it could be a sexual trauma, it could be any other kind of trauma, what happens is that our minds create this negative connection between the act or the situation, and then we have this negative emotional response to it. This happens with, for example, someone who gets in a really bad car crash could then develop this fear of driving in a car because their mind, the second they get into a car, say sitting in the driver's seat, their body starts reacting as if they're going to be in a car crash, even if they're just sitting in the driveway. That's what happens when we've been traumatized. So if this woman was traumatized performing oral sex on an ex-boyfriend, the sheer act of even thinking about it could create those sorts of really unpleasant feelings in her, even if it's with someone that she loves. She might have this feeling of danger, feeling like I can't say no, feeling like, oh my God, I want to get out of here, or I don't want this. And that's where like PTSD comes from, is she may or may not have PTSD, but what happens is basically your body and your mind get stuck in this situation. You keep living it over and over and over again when you're kind of exposed to situations that trigger it. So obviously for this woman, giving a blowjob probably triggers that trauma in her. Now, if other things are good in the relationship, it's possible that she could learn to get over that with some treatment and with some therapy to be able to deal with that aspect. But especially if that is the case and you are dealing with someone who has experienced trauma, it's important to be really, really gentle with them and to not pressure them, because whether or not she's going to give, this guy a blowjob, that's really kind of probably the least of her concerns. I mean, obviously she might want to make him happy, but you don't want to make someone feel guilty for something that psychologically and emotionally is a traumatic thing for them to do. So I would really recommend in a situation like that to, encourage your partner, if your partner has experienced trauma, encourage them to get help and be really, really supportive of them. And know that in time, you might be able to get that, but also be aware that you might not, depending on her level of wanting to deal with it and how open she is to that. But if you communicate that to her, that it's something you really enjoy and you wish that you could become closer by doing that, and that you'd like to help her overall with whatever she's feeling, that's really going to make her more likely to give a blowjob than anything else. So, unfortunately, there's no, magic words you can say to make someone do something that you want to do, but the key is always communication. And communication and supporting your partner wherever they are at. So, if you would like to send me a question, you're welcome to send me a message on here. Visit kelsieeducation.com and click the contact button to send me an email. You can also hit me up on Twitter @KelsieEducation.